I know I made the same mistake. Yeah, I won't do it again. No. Why you slapped me in the face? Ow. I didn't say it was okay. No. You made a fool of me again. This is the Community Solutions Podcast. Jason Bradley, Andrew Richter, from deep in the bowels of our underground lair, where we're getting to invited to more things than Joe Biden.
Yeah, but he would know. He would know if he was or not. Like Trump said, he doesn't know he's alive.
Right. Well, you know, he's been kind of MIA.
Oh, my God, you think?
I mean, it's been funny.
Got drones flying over New Jersey. The administration's completely clueless, which tells me it's our stuff.
Yeah.
We got escalation in the war on Russia. We got Assad getting removed in Syria, strangely landing in Russia as a safe haven. And this administration doesn't say a word.
No.
They're just...
But, I mean, it's been awesome because you watch President Trump and he's just kind of filled the void.
I know. Trump's like, basically running the country.
But, I mean, I don't want to say anything because I don't want...
If I were Trump, I'd just move in. I'd just move in. If you're not going to do it, then get out and let somebody else. I mean, you know.
Yeah, well... I mean, we need to have a leader right now more than ever. There's a lot of things to consider.
Well,
but
if you think about it, really, since July, the president has been doing what? I couldn't tell you.
He didn't go to the Notre Dame Cathedral.
Where did he go? Where he fell asleep?
Yeah, he was in Africa, wasn't he?
Yeah, they were complaining about his snoring at the table.
Welcome to America.
Yeah, he was waiting to get burped, and I guess Jill didn't come by, so he fell asleep.
But Jill went to that Notre Dame.
Did she?
Thing, and you didn't see that.
No, might as well. She's the president anyway.
Well. Trump went, and he sat. There was one chair in between the two of them. And
I think I heard about this.
She was making googly eyes at him, and
that's great. You know, I gotta say too, I've got more respect for Melania now.
Yeah,
when she wouldn't go to the White House. Trump, he'll go anywhere. He doesn't care. But she said, "No, I ain't meeting with them."
Right.
It was kind of like, huh. You know, because I think they expected her to just eat crow, and she wouldn't.
Right.
So,
but he does. He goes anywhere. He went back onto.
He brought Scarborough down to Mar-a-Lago. I'd have told Scarborough to go pound sand.
That he went and did an interview with the lady that was
Meet the Press
fact checking him on in the debate.
Yeah, exactly.
I told her to go pound sand.
I just think that as much as we legit complain about the media, and Trump and his people also do, and they're right.
Oh, yeah.
I think he just loves it. I think he just relishes going in there and just throwing them in. He just doesn't care.
Oh, absolutely. He doesn't care.
He knows he's the story. They're not. I mean, who'd watch The View if Donald Trump wasn't president-elect?
It would have been canceled.
It would have been canceled 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, I mean, he's the whole reason they exist. So.
Yeah. It's true, you know, but he is a master troller. I love it. Watching the things that he's saying. I mean, that's the new name for Prime Minister Trudeau in Canada is Governor Trudeau. The guy goes back to Canada, cries in his pillow.
Oh my God!
And
what a wimp!
He is. He might not be Prime Minister for much longer.
What's the matter with him? I mean, I thought he was Mr. Tough Guy when he went after truck drivers. But.
Right. Well, a lot of that had to do with this. Was she a minister of finance? I'm trying to remember. There's a lady that works under him that pushes a lot of this stuff for Canada, and she was behind a lot of that. Of course, he goes along with it.
Yeah, like Harry Truman said, the buck stops here.
All right. But there's always the unsubstantiated rumors that he's really a Castro and not a Trudeau.
I wouldn't doubt anything, to be honest. I got to say, the song, by the way, You Made a Fool of Me, That's Crystal Gale.
No, that's not what.
Well, it is.
Well, I did say that, but that was
I heard you made a fool of me. That's Crystal Gale who sings that, right?
no.
Well, who the hell is it then?
Song called "Again" from Alice in Chains.
Ah, I know them.
Yeah, and
Or
we're
her.
talking about.
I know her.
Yeah, I picked that song again because we're going to be reviewing a lot of things that happened over the last year again. So,
Well, that's a fun thing to do, a
is.
year-end kind of thing. I mean, it's been one heck of a year, man. I mean,
yeah,
I can't think of a year that tops 24 in my lifetime.
oh goodness, what a year! Yeah,
I'm hard pressed to think of one.
yeah. I mean, there's been lots of good and lots of not so good. It's been a crazy year.
I mean, if you people live to be 100, you may never see an incumbent president drop out. A president run, lose in quotes, then win again. I mean, to see those two things in the same year, like I said at the time, the only year I can think of that even registers in my head with this is 1968. That's the only year I can think of which of course is before we were born. But I mean, where you had Nixon make the comeback. Although he hadn't been president, he had been vice president.
Yeah.
And run and lost. And then, Lyndon Johnson dropped out much, much earlier in March or April, I wanted to say. And then, of course, you had Robert Kennedy Sr., who probably would have won the nomination. Get killed. And then Humphrey jumps in, vice president, again, kind of like this year. And then, the election was not as close in 24 as it was in 68. Of course, you had George Wallace as a third Southern candidate or whatever he was at the time. So, I mean, but it's the only thing I can't think of an election that even come close to it. But before we get there, Jay, got some new things going into effect here in the state of Minnesota. Starting on January 1st, you got a little less freedoms. Or maybe that's not quite true. And depends on the issue, I guess.
I think the worst stuff we'll probably talk about later in the show when we're reviewing, because they didn't wait to put that stuff in. This stuff is going in now. And there's some not so good in there, but there's...
Enlighten us, Jay.
Well,
I don't feel like reading, and I forgot my glasses.
You don't wear glasses.
I do.
Oh, you do?
Short story on this. I was out with my side of the family. We already did our Christmas.
Yeah.
I'm on Molly's side coming up. But we were at Texas Roadhouse in Coon Rapids.
Yeah.
Good place to eat, by the way.
Yes.
Place is busy as hell. And my wife looks at me and she's like, "You can't read the menu, can you?" Like,
because of the lighting, right?
Like, I pretty much know what I want. And I kind of just growl at her or whatever. So my brother-in-law gives me who's younger than me by a year, by the way, gives me his glasses. I'm like, the letters are big now. A couple days later, on the front steps, there's a box of reading glasses with my name on it, ordered on my credit card.
Yeah, but not by you?
But not by me.
Oh, that's how that
was my wife's way of saying, "I told you so." So all these glasses got delivered. I got
box of them.
I've got probably 20 now.
Wow.
And so I've been using them, and they do help. I mean, they do help. And I have been nearsighted my entire life. I've worn glasses and contacts since I was 11 years old. And bifocals, that's something my grandfather had. I'm not wearing that crap.
No.
And it's kind of like, I guess I'm gonna.
Yeah?
I mean, it's not those bad, horrible glasses. Remember those that had the bifocals like built into the glass? Looked like crap. I don't know how people saw out of those.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Ugh, horrible. But my eyes are going, Jay. They're going to be one of the first things that go.
Yeah?
I just know it.
I'm sorry to hear that.
I know. It's just terrible. It's be so terrible, but it's going to be one of the first things on me to go, I'm telling you.
Yeah, better your eyes than your looks.
Well, at least I
Of
can't
course.
see it.
Right.
Golly. So much for my short stories. So enlighten us here on what we're looking forward to January 1st in the state of Minnesota.
Yeah. Anytime that you have the government in Minnesota as a Democrat trifecta passing laws makes one worry and maybe bite their nails a bit.
You all, especially at the end of the session,
Right.
'cause, you don't know it for another month or two.
Well, and there were things that didn't get passed that they tried to get passed, like the Equal Rights Amendment. That failed. Thank the good Lord it failed, because that would have been just nightmare. It would have opened up a bunch of legal challenges. It would have been a mess.
yeah, they
And
kept talking about the ERA. I'm like, who cares about your earn run average?
Yeah. But that was something that didn't pass, thank goodness. And there were other things that didn't make it through that would have this time, save for a hopeful Republican upswing in the House that will hold them in check. We'll see.
There's that election in Shakopee where quite frankly, I think the legal solution is a revote. I really think that that's the only thing it's not going to happen. The DFL will win it. They always do. Anytime there's a close election, they win. But when there's more missing votes than someone's ahead, I don't understand how you go forward and certify that. It just makes no sense to me. But
and they're going to certify it?
yes, and I mean they got the judges, and they'll get it through. So Brad Tabke will be there, and it'll be a split majority. By the way, how dumb are you, Minnesota? Can you give an uneven number of people? Serving in the House.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'm kind of thankful there's not.
Well, I know, but
there's no way to do that when you
How do you
have two
do-
House members per Senate district. It doesn't matter how many Senate districts you have. You're going to have an even number of people in the House. The answer: a unicameral legislature.
I think that's the answer, or the answer is to divide it up the way like it's a mini electoral college where you have every county have a representative, just like every state does, and which has two. But I mean, you have to do it some different way than we do. You're right; there is no other way. But I mean.
Yeah.
I don't know how you share power here. I don't know how that works. I don't know who chairs what committee. I don't who decides who's on what. I really just don't understand.
See,
that.
I think that's great. And I've got some ideas that I'll talk about in the future that I've been working on, but that would be a great way to do it, where if you did it county by county, you would have 87 people in the legislature, and I guess... Well, I depends how you want to do it. You could have, I guess you need to have it representative of the number of people.
Well, if you're going to do a House and Senate, there's actually a court case that won't allow that to happen, though. Remember when we had Hugh McTavish on my show?
Yeah.
He brought up that case, a court case, that you can't have it the way they structure it at the federal level.
Yeah.
You can't have like a Senate that's not. But see, what I don't understand is if the House is based on population and the Senate's based on population, what's the point of having a Senate and a House?
Right.
And I don't like it because then things end up in a conference committee. That's where the back scratching comes in. I think you have a unicameral legislature with a supermajority to pass things.
Right.
I think that's the way to do this. Not 51-49 the way it is now, but 55 or 60 like a bonding bill.
Yeah.
Because that forces that doesn't let one party run roughshod over everybody.
Right.
Everything that passes has to have, a super majority of support so that the people are getting represented. Not, we got the lead by 1 seat, so we'll just ramrod anything we want to.
Right.
That's not what a republic's supposed to do. So,
No, but if there a way to structure it by county, then you wouldn't have the gerrymandering, which I think is a good thing too. I mean, that we got to get rid of that.
Gerrymandering partly exists because we've made them Republican and Democratic districts. In other words, how do I word this? The red and blue parts of Minnesota, or the parts that just get bluer or the parts that just get redder, are the least represented in this entire state.
Yeah.
And I don't know that there's a perfect way to change that other than having fewer representatives.
Yeah.
Because if you have a rep for every 2 cities like you do in the Twin Cities, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to do it. I know that I hate. We have too many legislators.
Yeah.
We have too much BS. There's no reason to have a House and Senate. There just isn't. So I don't get it.
If you did it by county where it took population into account, you can't gerrymander a county. The counties are fixed. And you don't assign just one per county. It would be based on your population. You would have X amount per county. To help make it more of a quote unquote fair fight, right? Because I mean, I don't want to cheat in the other direction either, but I think that you need to level the playing field because right now everything is run by the Twin Cities, everything in the state, and most of the state is rural. Population wise, it's more urban, right, or suburban.
Well, especially when the Democrats are in charge. I mean, in reality, outside of Hennepin, Ramsey, and Lake County, and a sliver of St. Louis County.
Yeah,
most of St. Louis County's red. It's just the Duluth area that's not. And even that is moving a little bit. I mean, I think Pete Stauber has something to do with that too.
Yeah.
But I mean, outside of that, they're not the majority anywhere in this state.
Right.
I mean, maybe down in Rochester a little bit, but not by a 70-30 margin.
Right.
Look, again, I don't know 100% how to fix that. I want to make it so the parties have to go everywhere. That's what I want to make it, so that everybody's got a campaign everywhere. And I don't know how to do that 100%, but all I know is I think a unicameral legislature with a supermajority to pass bills, that to me is how we should change it.
Yeah. Well, all right. Anyways, getting into
I digress.
All of this horrible stuff they passed. I'm going to start with something not so horrible. I don't like why they passed it, but I have my own personal reasons for that. The Taylor Swift bill for concert ticket protections. It was inspired because of Taylor Swift's concert here at US Bank Stadium, and you had people that were attempting to buy tickets, and there was a whole kerfuffle about people being able to get those tickets versus the fees that were on them, and you would buy. I mean, her tickets aren't cheap. They're $400 to $5,000 or whatever.
God.
I don't know.
Jeez.
Good thing I don't like her. I could never afford to go see her. But bots bought a lot of those tickets up, and then they would resell them, pushing the ticket prices up. And also when you're buying the ticket for the first time, like through Ticketmaster or whatever, you are not given the fees ahead of time. The ticket is $400, and then you find out there's a convenience fee, there's a this fee, a that fee. I'm sure a Hennepin County wheelage tax. I don't know, whatever is on there, right? And so now you are going to be able to see all of those things up front, so that you know what the all-in ticket purchase price is. And
I love a convenience fee.
Good.
Who came up with that?
Probably Ticketmaster.
Yeah, well, but they have a monopoly. There's another problem too.
Right.
Why are they the only people that can process tickets? I'll tell you that though.
Yeah.
There are places that are ahead of the curve. If you go to Ticket King or StubHub, you can actually have the prices set to where you can see everything.
Right.
That's what I do, because I get pissed off at those. The fees are astronomical on some of these sites, and I don't get it. Like, I remember my wife and I one time went to a Timberwolves game. This is a couple of years. This is maybe before COVID. They weren't very good, but I got really good seats. It's like, they're only like $50 down by. Well, I get on there. There's a $25 fee per ticket. I'm like, fee for what? It's just. I mean, it's crazy what fees are.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know what they're doing. They're doing anything.
No.
So,
and isn't it cheaper to do it online for the company than it is to hire somebody to sit there and take phone calls?
Yeah, back when you had
a ticket window.
Yeah, back when you had to call with your credit card, and
they don't have to print tickets. I have to print my own ticket, or it's on my
thing
phone
to scan. Yeah, I know. I don't understand it either. It's such a scam.
It is.
I mean, anything they do to destroy that, I'm fine with. And I hate saying this because I'm a devout capitalist, but I'm so angry at a lot of the big corporations in this country and a lot of the people who, try to screw us over. I mean, I don't defend business all the time. Businesses suck.
Yeah.
So, and look, I mean, I worked for a big corporation for a long time, and as soon as they didn't need me anymore, I was tossed aside and left with nothing. So the hell with them. I mean, I don't think, but I mean, imagine if you walked into a storage and you wanted to buy a TV, and you walked up to the counter and there was a $200 fee for buying the TV.
Right.
I mean, that would never be allowed at a store. So
it would not.
Be unfair pricing. It would be, there's some technical law to that, but it's, other than the sales tax, obviously, but I mean, which is a scam enough, in my opinion, and regressive.
Yeah.
On top of it, but
it's bad as looking at utility bills, where there are 5, 6, 7 different fees and taxes.
Yeah, and some of them are the government.
Most of them are the government.
Yeah, so the government is just as guilty as some of this stuff. So,
but yeah, I mean, it's awful. And you look at ticket prices, and concerts really used to be for the fans. I'm trying to think, when I went to high school, I think I paid $35 to see big bands. Like, I think I came down to the Metrodome when I was in high school, and that huge concert, it was Metallica, Guns N' Roses, Faith No More, or whatever. I think I paid $35 to go to that show.
Yeah, I paid $40 to watch Page Plant back in the 90s. At Target Center.
And now you can't get in for concerts are $80, $90, $500, $1,000.
You're breaking into your kid's college fund to go watch a concert.
But yet, like, a lot of these mothers, like with Taylor Swift, will bring their girls, and it's like, I don't know how you afford this. I sure couldn't.
You're charging it.
Nor would I, but...
Taking out a second mortgage. I don't know what they're doing. I have no idea what they're doing. No idea.
Concerts now are really a status symbol to say I was there, even though I might not be a fan. I don't care to have that status symbol. I find more pride in having not.
And you know what?
But yeah.
I would rather have real fans of my stuff there than have a bunch of rich snobs. I mean, if you think about it, who do you want in your audience?
Exactly.
And you're Taylor Swift. You have the power to. I shouldn't pick on her completely because she's certainly not alone. But it's like
they all do it.
You have the power to. You're going to make thousands of dollars no matter what you do. You could say, I'm not charging that kind of money for that, to raffle off tickets if you
Yeah.
could do something like that.
There are bands that have tried to keep the costs down.
There are.
But with a lot of these fees and how much it costs to rent the venues now.
I know. The
and
problem,
it's-
too, is the bands are so far from it, too. They've got managers, they've got PR people, they've got the record label doing stuff. I think it's so out of their control
Yeah.
unless you're in a smaller venue. I used to
Right.
watch them at Roy Wilkins, and I thought that was a good venue. Who did I see there? Brian Setzer Orchestra.
Oh,
I thought they
okay.
were great. They were
Yeah.
really good.
Local guy.
Yeah, I mean they were phenomenal.
Huh.
Roy Wilkins was an interesting place to go watch a concert,
Oh, yeah.
I thought.
Yeah, I saw POD there. That was
Okay.
that was great. They did.
And I did. I
had a
remember
good
First
show.
Ave when I worked
Yeah.
down in the valley selling the tickets down there.
Oh, yeah. I remember
Yola Tango. I remember they came there one night. I didn't care for. They had put on a good show.
Yeah.
I only went because First Avenue gave us the tickets.
Right.
We didn't sell them. That might have been a scam, but
Right.
I don't know how we got them, or maybe I bought them at a discount or something. But yeah, Yola Tango. I saw them at.
I remember them coming through a bunch. I never went to see
Hmm.
them. I saw a lot of good shows at First Avenue.
Oh, and 7th Street Entry too.
Played
yeah.
at 7th Street Entry. That that's phenomenal.
All right.
Yeah.
I digress, Jamie.
All right. The next one is job listings. Employers are now required to disclose a starting salary range or fixed pay rate and a general description of all benefits and other compensation, which can include health or retirement benefits in each job posting.
I'm going to call that a good one. I think
Really?
yeah, I do. I think it is. I'm going to call that a 50% good one because I think pay range and all that. Every job's not the same. You know, it's
Right.
like you got entry level jobs, you got jobs that require blah blah blah. But I remember job hunting and just hating the fact that no one would list the pay.
Right.
It's like, well, am I wasting my time? Am I? So I mean,
Yeah, it frustrated me when I worked for other people and I would go do interviews. It did frustrate me, but is it really government's job to tell private employers or job listing sites you have to include this information? I don't think it is.
well, I think it is. I think it's a good lie.
word.
I'm okay with this.
Okay,
one.
Bernie Sanders.
Benefits is a little.
Yeah.
What are you going to say? Well, we provide health. Well, that doesn't tell me anything. I mean,
Right.
it's a little bit too much, but I think I'm all right with it. I think that's okay. I err on the side of transparency. I think it's deceptive advertising. I mean, that's kind of like if you were trying to sell a car, would you not put a price on there? Or just say, hey, I got an 89 Bronco, 200,000 miles on it.
Yeah, but
Come get it.
you always end up knowing what you're going to make before you say yes to a job offer, though.
I suppose, but I think it's good that people. I've done that where I have. Okay, what's it pay? And do I waste my time or don't I? There's a
Right.
lot of crap to fill
Yeah,
out. And you're
no,
filling
I
it
know.
out over and over and over.
I just don't like to see the government in private enterprise, and so
I love it. I love it anytime.
Now, they can require that like through deed. What does that stand for? But like they do, like the government job fairs and recruiting, and it's like a government run one, which I don't know if that's really their job either. But I could see where they could require employers to provide that information as part of using their service. Yeah. But I don't think like I need to put this on Indeed or any of that stuff. I don't know. I don't think it's really a great benefit to freedom.
Here's the other thing is does it stop here? Do you now have to put the hours? Do you have to put the paid days off? Do you have to put where do we stop it now? Is a concern I would have. But I'm all right with this. I'm good with that.
Yeah.
There's that populist in me again.
Yeah. All right.
Screw your conservative stuff.
Whatever. Next one is campus voting. There's a new law that applies to college campuses or post-secondary institutions that provides on-campus housing for at least 100 students. Location must be within a half mile, and additional polling places will be added for state general election or off-year city general elections.
Question about
Yes.
that. When you are in college, do you get to pick your quote-unquote residence? I mean, pretend, Jay. Pretend with me. Pretend me being here in Minnesota. I went to college at Ohio State.
Yeah.
Now, I still came back home in the summer.
Yeah.
I, quote, maintain a residence, but I live on campus from September to May.
Yeah.
Where am I voting? Well, but I mean,
But I was a voter. I was always a voter, so
Yeah.
I know I voted.
I guess my issue with this, I always wondered about college students who
Yeah.
go away. Where are they voting? I mean, like if I use my example, say I went to Ohio State, came home for the weekend, could I cast a ballot? You know, you could same day register in Minnesota. You know, you can. Can I cast a ballot? Does Ohio know if I'm still registered in Minnesota?
Yeah, I don't know if the states talk. I mean, a lot of the states won't clean up their own voter rolls. How are they going to communicate?
Virginia won't need a court order to get rid of dead people.
Well, even in this state, there was supposed to be a cleaning of the voter rolls.
Oh, there's supposed to have been 100 times.
And Ellison blocked it.
I don't get it.
I don't either.
What are they doing?
Well,
I mean, I
there's
know
no
what they're
reason
doing. They're
to do it
cheating.
other than
cheating. That's the only reason it could be.
yeah. If you don't want things to be visible, it's most likely because you're doing things that are shady.
I'll tell you what, too. I mean, the when you look at, it's funny, the red states never have these problems.
Right.
There's not these problems in Texas or Florida. Or
Right.
I mean, just think, Texas. Think of the size of Texas, like the fastest growing state on earth.
Yeah.
Okay, there's 40 electoral votes. 20 years ago, there were 29. Okay,
Yeah.
I mean, when in 2000 they were 29. Okay, so just see how much, and they have no issues at all. They're a border state, and yet somehow they don't have these problems.
Right.
Why is it that, look what they did in Virginia. I mean, Glenn Youngkin, all he was trying to do was get rid of people who admitted that they were not U.S. citizens
Right.
off the voter rolls, and the Biden administration tried to block it,
Yeah.
which I don't know how they can do. How can they block what Virginia's doing? I mean, unless they're like, if they were like getting rid of black people or something, that's one thing, but they're citizens.
Right. Well, I don't know that this is going to favor the DFL because if trends continue, young men are turning conservative because liberal college-educated white women are turning them off completely.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Thank God I'm not a young man now.
my
What
word.
a horrible it would be to date these snobby. I won't say the word I wanted to say, but I mean, these just,
if I were Catholic,
Horrid.
it would be a lot easier to become a priest these days. I'll tell you that.
God. It's so terrible.
Yeah.
It's all, it's just, you know what? I got to say something too, because I get criticized a lot because I don't articulate this well.
Yeah.
There were so many negatives to the women's movement.
Yeah.
I mean, I am an equal rights guy. I mean, I believe that everyone ought to have the same rights, but
Yes.
that doesn't mean everyone's the same. Case in point.
Yeah.
I know I'm totally going off the rails here.
It's all right.
Doesn't matter.
It's our podcast.
Can a woman be a police officer? Of course.
Yep.
Here's my question. Should they? My wife? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Out of the question. You wouldn't do that. I would take my wife and I'd handcuff her to her front door and say, "You're not doing that." It's conduct unbecoming of a woman a woman that I'm married. I'm not saying she can't or isn't capable of doing it. I think they are. But it's just conduct unacceptable to do that, in my opinion. Okay, I mean, I also
We've all seen videos though of women that have been picked up by perpetrators that are much bigger than they are.
women soldiers. Can women serve in combat? Sure.
Yeah,
you know what
absolutely.
happens to a woman who gets captured in certain countries?
Yes.
So no woman around me is serving. No, sorry, it's a man's job. I'm sorry, but it's just like my wife.
You're talking about combat
right?
roles.
Exactly. I mean, there's other roles they can fill.
Not like medics, not like flying.
Sure, they can cook dinner and bake cookies.
Whatever.
But here's the thing, But I just to me, it's like, can the woman shovel the driveway? Sure, but I'm not going to let my wife shovel the driveway.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I don't know how to articulate that without. But I'll tell you what, you say this to the mod that you know, and they just all they want to do is scratch your eyes out. And it's like, come on, woman, can't you think for a minute? I mean, are you so obsessed with hating men that you can't logically think about it? It's like, would you like your mom to be like a bailiff in court or a prison guard? I mean, come on. I mean, I don't know. My wife would want me doing those things.
Right.
I mean, there's just some things I think I just, when I think of the important women that have been in my life, from my grandmothers to my mom, my sister, my wife, it's like, because I love them, I don't want them doing certain things, even though they're capable of it.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to say it. I just don't know how to say it.
Well, let me go back. We were talking about when I was in college.
Yeah.
I started an organization or a chapter of an organization.
You voted for Taft or Coolidge when you
right. I started a chapter of an organization called InterVarsity Christian Fellowship when I was at St. Scholastica, and I, as the head of that, our group, we decided we were going to have somebody come in from the local Christian radio station and talk about gender roles. Oh, this set the college off.
Oh, God.
The professors had found out about it, and they had just started doing this like freshman seminar thing or whatever that every freshman had to take.
Right, where they try to indoctrinate you.
I was like a junior at this time, so I never had to take it. But there were a bunch of people that went around tearing down the posters for our event, and the people that were running this freshman seminar gave extra credit for coming to a seminar they were going to put on about gender roles on the same day at the same time.
Well, then you should have given more extra credit.
I don't know what that would have been good for, seeing as I was a student, but
nothing.
I could have granted extra credit.
I'd have gone to both. I'd have gone to theirs for 5 minutes, gotten the extra credit, then gone to yours.
Yeah. But yeah, we still had people at ours, but those are the kind of sneaky tricks that they play,
What are they scared of? They're so scared of debate.
Oh, of course they are.
Scared of their
because
ideas challenged. Yeah,
they can't defend their ideas because their ideas are horrible. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. You have to shut people down and censor them because.
But think of it like this. I watched A Christmas Story the other night.
Oh, great film!
And you got Darren McGavin, he's the dad. Yeah, not Rob, but
sorry. Yeah.
He comes home from work and there's the wife cooking the dinner and the boys got in trouble and they hide it from dad. And it's kind of just that nuclear and it's like, that's so great to see. And they get the lamp with the leg and this. I mean, it's just like, it's like. Part of me just yearns for the old days like that, where it was, and I'm proud of my wife and her career, and she's very good at it. And of course, we don't have children, so it's different. If we had a family, it would be, obviously, we would be doing, things differently than we do. We both work because neither one of us has to be home.
Right.
So, I don't know. There's just something about like, I don't know if it's nostalgia or what, because that was my family,
Right.
My mom didn't go back to work until she went back later when my sister and I were teenagers, but I don't know. There's just something about that. There's something about coming home to that lousy meal, watching the dad read the paper. My dad would have been in his underwear, but I mean, there's just something about it that there's just something special that I just don't think we have anymore. Maybe we do, and I don't know. But
this is the thing. I mean, we're created differently, men and women. And that's an okay thing.
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with that. It's men are usually, not always, but usually more of the adventure seekers, more of the wanting to do things with their hands, wanting to do the manual labor. I mean, there are exceptions to that rule, where you have a woman that is more of a tomboy or whatever, and now they try to convince all the tomboys that they're really men.
They're really men.
But,
they're really lesbians.
They're rooting
or
a whole generation doing that.
You're right. That is ADD. ADHD.
Yeah.
You can't chemically babysit a kid.
Right.
Anyway, all right, Jay, we're way off.
Yeah.
Whip through this here. What else is going
on? Binary triggers.
Oh, so that's the trigger that is gender neutral?
Yes, exactly.
A gender neutral trigger. I could say a few things there, but I won't.
A binary trigger, for those who don't know, basically when you shoot a gun and you pull the trigger, it shoots, and then you have to either, depending on what type it is, it's most now are semi-automatic, and so every time you pull the trigger, another shot will go off, and it will load the next round by itself. There are others where, you have to, like a bolt action, where you pull the bolt back, it kicks the spent round out, and then when you close the bolt, it brings the new round into the chamber. But with a binary trigger, it not only shoots when you press the trigger, when you let go of the trigger, it will shoot again.
Oh,
so
awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. I haven't tried one, but it sounds awesome. Anyway,
no, I have to. I'd have never missed that deer back in '93.
I don't know. It's
so that's banned now in Minnesota.
Yeah, it's going to be banned. There was a shooter in Burnsville who killed 3 first responders in February using a binary trigger, but
now one a-hole has to ruin it for all.
Right, and that's the thing, though. It's like a gun is deadly by putting a binary trigger in. Are you making it more deadly? I mean, it's still deadly.
Well, when did the obsession with the weapon? My answer to this is if government can have it, then I can have it.
Yeah.
Government can have any weapon they want to. Of course, that's for my safety.
Right.
I have to be safe from them.
Yeah.
But I can't have anything I want.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it goes without saying that we feel bad about the first responders that were killed, and it's awful. But it's about punishing the criminal. I would like to see this guy's rap sheet. How many times has he been arrested and let go? That's what I would like to know.
Oh goodness, probably 20.
I mean, who didn't do their job in the legal system?
Well, and if he's a criminal, he shouldn't be possessing a gun anyway, no matter what it is, right?
Exactly.
So, there's a million laws on that already.
You're not going to have somebody that's never committed a crime.
This is the thing too, Jay. And I don't mean to interrupt, but the whole obsession with the weapon. When did that begin? When did that begin? This idea when Oswald shot Kennedy. If you look at the coverage,
yeah,
even today, where did Oswald get that gun? Yeah. Was it registered? Was it? Did you have a 7-day waiting period?
Right.
Somebody do a background check?
Well, this is the progressive thing, though. If you can start to just ban certain things that cause problems, you take a sliver here, you take a sliver there, you take a sliver there. Pretty soon, it's all banned.
Right, but they never solved the problem.
No, they don't want to solve the problem.
There's still school shootings despite all their laws.
No, it's not about solving the problem. It's about getting rid of the guns. But this is like,
did it start with Reagan shooting the Brady bill? Was that like the first big thing?
Maybe.
I mean, I don't remember. I mean, I remember that, but I don't remember what that all was. I don't remember that.
But. Yeah. But Senator Heather Gustafson, DFL of Vadnais Heights, says it eliminates a tool that makes it easier to kill people. A gun is a gun is a gun is a gun. You pull the trigger when you aim it at somebody, you're going to kill somebody. It's not about.
You should see the set of steak knives I got. They could kill anything I wanted to kill.
So are we going to start banning double-edged swords?
Maybe.
No,
because there's no money in that. There's no endorsements or anything like that. If there were, yes.
Yeah. I mean, interesting enough, Florida and Idaho, I guess, also banned them. But they also banned light bulbs containing mercury. Did you know that?
Buy me a mercury and cruise it up and down the road.
Except for bulbs used for photocopying, holography, or sterilization, and will be overseen by the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. So again, government is going to oversee something.
Yeah. Government will oversee government.
Since the Minnesota government is in the sterilization business anyways, I suppose that's a lot of light bulbs. They need that for. Do you use those for sterilizing all your kids that you send over to children's? Whoops.
Oh boy, probably soak it in vinegar. I don't know. Oh jeez. What else we got? What else? Anything else?
Renter protections is the final bill here, and so with that, it allows for a peaceful assembly of renters in a certain building to form an association, which, the Constitution does grant us a right to peacefully assemble and associate with whom we want. And this is so for the purpose, not, Bill can't use the party room this week. It is if they want to complain about the landlord or the conditions in the building, and it will allow for canvassing, leafleting, free expression, whatever, to be able going to the media, all that kind of stuff. And I think a lot of that is good, especially when you're dealing with a landlord that is kind of a slumlord. But what I don't, there is a bad part to this, of course, because the DFL did it. So it allows them to do this without retaliation of the landlords. And forms of retaliation include increasing rent, decreasing services, altering existing agreements, filing legal action, which I agree with all that. But here's the last one, or contacting law enforcement about a tenant's immigration status. So apparently...
there's sanctuary
apartment buildings now. I don't know. That's the direction that they're trying to go in. I know that it didn't make it through the legislature this last time, but there was talk about making Minnesota a sanctuary state, and thank goodness it never made it to the legislature or through the legislature. I mean, in that last session, because they'd have passed it if they could have.
Here's my question too.
Yeah.
How does that not get turned away by the Supreme Court? How is it sanctuary? If you had a sanctuary for rapists or murderers, there's no way that would pass any kind of judicial scrutiny.
Right.
Or one for tax evaders.
Right.
I mean, so why is it for illegal aliens you can have a safe haven? I don't understand why the same standard's not applied here.
Yeah, I don't know either. It's it's a bad deal. That's all I know.
This is what I say.
If I were a landlord, I would still anonymously tip.
I would. Well, I would. First off, don't they need like a driver's license, social security card? It seems to me when I rented, I need all that stuff.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, okay, I do. Yeah, pay stubs. I mean, you don't just. You shouldn't be able to get an apartment if you...
Right. Because they have to do a credit check, all of that kind of stuff.
A lot of places do that now, even more so than like a renter's history. They more care about whether you pay your bills. Okay. By the way, minimum wage up to $11.13 here. Wow. So my pull tab salary just went up.
Yeah.
Which I don't care about, but
right.
It's just automatic minimum wage increase. But I'll tell you, I don't know how they can do that either. I really don't.
Yeah.
Anyhow,
Yes.
Jay, so 2024, Jay. I mean,
Yes.
we already mentioned President Trump being the biggest story of the year.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's no question that he is. It's not even close. You talk about him being the Time, what do you call it? Is it Person of the Year now?
Yes.
Okay, the Time Person of the Year, which, by the way, they've given to Joseph Stalin and Adolf Hitler and a few other people, too, by the way, Time magazine.
Yeah.
But let me ask you a question.
Okay.
If Trump's not the Person of the Year, who's the second Person of the Year?
Oh, it's...
You think, I mean, who's the second? Obviously, he's number one.
You mean really? Or like a magazine like Time would
I mean, really.
Yeah.
Not what Time would do.
probably Elon Musk.
I was going to say Elon. He's probably number two.
Yeah.
So, but I'm excited to have him doing what he's doing. I really am.
Yeah.
And by the way, all of these liberals who are complaining about Elon and all that,
Yeah.
you weren't. Why don't you go check out all the subsidies you wrote for his industry? Don't sit here and complain about this stuff.
Right.
When you know, a couple of years ago you were hailing him for, you know, making the I mean, first off, you know what I would do if I were in favor of the Green New Deal? I'd hire Elon to do. You think how many billions of dollars we spent on like $10 billion per like electric station or something like that?
Yeah.
Elon would have built 5,000 of them
Yeah.
for 1/20th of the price and probably returned the extra money.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
We built 8.
Yeah, I know. It's pathetic. What happened to all the money? Come on,
Wow.
Bernie Sanders. What happened to it? How come you don't care?
Because they don't care.
I thought it was about the environment. I thought we were all gonna burn to death.
Yeah, right. That's why they all live on the coast.
Yeah, the Obamas living under sea level,
Yeah.
all talking about how the world's gonna, you know, world's
Right.
gonna melt. We're all gonna drown while they live under sea level. Hilarious.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe that's what happened to their chef. It was climate change.
Yeah, could have been. Yeah. So I agree with you, Elon. Do you think the how big a story, looking back on it, is like the Her report? You know, you go back to February or March.
Right.
How big a story should that have been? And
Boy,
I mean,
should have been.
I
Well,
hope
we've
he
seen it
writes
coming
a,
for
hope
4
he writes
years.
a book. That's what I hope.
4 years we've seen the decline
Yeah.
of Joe Biden. You know, I mean, it wasn't a surprise. It was confirmation, you know, but I don't think even from the Her report we really understood how bad he had gotten until that debate. I mean, we had glimpses of it, but I mean, since that debate, he's gone down rapidly since then.
Yeah, he has. I know. I just wonder how long before he's in the home.
The Alzheimer's memory
I
unit.
don't know. I mean,
I
maybe.
don't know. I mean, as a president,
President
I don't even know
Reagan
how
lived a long time being
Yeah.
diagnosed with Alzheimer's. So.
Yeah. Well, when you're at that stage, though, and you are as rich as that, you can live out your days at home and have personal care. Or whatever.
Sure.
But yeah, and wish him nothing but, you know.
I don't wish anything bad on him at all. Why would I do that? He just shouldn't be the president of the United States.
Nope. And possibly serving from a really comfy jail cell. But,
Yeah, but you know,
Yes.
let me ask you this: how could what do you think 50 years from now people are going to say about Biden's condition and the Biden? I mean, obviously he's going to go down as a horrid president.
well, it depends who writes the history books. I think.
Okay, let's pretend
Yeah.
it's not the legacy media.
Yeah.
You know, 50 years from now, there's no way they'll be running things. It's not the legacy media. How does somebody not born yet look back at Biden's, like the way we look back at FDR,
Yeah.
or Woodrow Wilson? How do they judge it in 50 years?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you look at Woodrow Wilson, you look at FDR, and they're hailed as great presidents by because you've got the
By the usual
progressives
group
that are writing the history.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. Whoever writes the history is the one who.
Well, it's getting challenged a lot, though. I mean,
Yeah.
Wilson in particular, but
he needs to be. It was terrible.
yeah, it was horrid, and our whole entry into World War I was just a total scam. The Creel Commission,
Yeah.
and the
The
violations
Democrats
of
repealed a lot of what he did when he was president.
yeah. And then you look at FDR, who was also not just, I mean, he had a physical handicap that was not all that well known.
No.
It was covered up. And then, of course, at the end, I mean, he had no business being president of the United States.
Right.
His last year or two,
Yeah.
from 42 on, he should have never been president.
Right.
I mean, we didn't have the 25th Amendment then, so I don't know what the procedure, did we? No, we didn't. We
no.
didn't have that till the 1960s, I want to say. So I don't know what the process would have been, but for him to run in 1944 was just horrible. I blame a lot of it on his wife. I blame her for a lot. Sorry, I don't know why Eleanor Roosevelt is so revered. I have no idea. But it's just
Yeah, 1967 was when that was ratified.
yeah, I thought so. So I don't know what the procedure was prior to that.
Yeah, I don't know if there was one. To actually
Maybe it's something
remove
I'd
a
have thought of,
president,
yeah.
other than impeachment, which you can't impeach somebody for being sick.
Yeah, exactly. But they have to be able to exercise the duties of their office. I mean,
Right.
I don't know. I mean, the more we find out, and we'll never find out the whole truth about Roosevelt or Wilson. We'll never find out the whole truth.
Right.
I think the truth is probably 2, 3, 5 times as bad as we think it is.
Right.
So it always is. But if we were going to know the truth about the Biden presidency. I mean, I know things are leaking out. I know somebody will write a book. I know somebody will get a job at MSNBC and spill the beans. But I mean, are we ever going to know who's really made the decisions over the past 4 years? Because to me, this is one of the biggest scandals in the history of our country.
Yeah. I don't think we will. I mean, we know who some of the players are. We know that Barack Obama's been involved. We know Valerie Jarrett's been involved. We know Susan Rice has been involved.
Jake Sullivan, Ron Klain.
Yeah.
Obviously, the vice president has to have a role in this.
Does she?
I think it's hard to believe that she's not aware whether or not anybody, clearly she never established any authority. You know what I mean? I mean, it wasn't like she ever did that.
I mean, she was in the room for all those decisions, but I don't think that
Yeah,
she
well, so was the plant in the corner.
Right.
You might have a point there.
like
but-
people with more
I think
intelligence
she's-
than her weren't leading her to the decision they wanted anyways.
True, but I think she was complicit in it. You can't go out to the public and claim Joe Biden runs circles around everybody in the back. No one believed that.
Right.
And you can't lie to people like that. And obviously the campaign, the staffers, the aides, they're all lying scumbags. Every one of them is.
Yeah.
The White House press secretary,
Oh, she's terrible.
Jen Psaki too. They all knew it.
Yeah.
And of course, she gets a job at MSNBC. It's just ridiculous. So, I mean, I also would say, the thing that's bothering me a lot too is I'm hearing a lot of this anonymous source stuff. You know what? Come out and be an adult. Okay, and put your face to name to something. It's so wimpy to feed a story to some journalist on your side that is not going to
fact check anything.
Yeah, they're just gonna report a half truth of that and never out really dig into it.
Right.
That's so wimpy. I mean, come on, why don't you just? But I don't know that we'll ever know. I don't know that we'll ever know the truth. I don't know if the people, or that anybody will ever be held accountable. Because personally, I think it's crime what they did.
Yeah, I think there are actual crimes in how a lot of this has played out. But we'll have to see if he ends up pardoning a lot of these people or not.
Well, and I want to know what happened in 2020 because lot of this would have been exposed then. But we had the Biden in the basement strategy. We had the COVID gave him the excuse to go hide.
Right.
That would have never, I always say this, it just reinforces that Trump would have won in 2020 without the COVID thing. You can't tell me that he wouldn't have gotten 10,000 votes in Wisconsin or Arizona. There's no question he would have won. He might have done it anyway. So
But I don't think Trump had had the cabinet he's going to have this time if he had won in 2020.
You know what? Part of me says that too. Like, okay, Trump lost. I think he'll be a better president this time. I think he's brought the A team. But to go through 4 years of what we went through, man, I'll tell you what,
I know.
You know what? I mean, in the long run, he may fix more stuff. And in 28, we may be way better than, we would have been had he been reelected the first time. But that 4 years was tough.
Yes.
It's just tough.
Oh, it was. I mean, it was really hard, to keep positive about anything, really. It was just felt heavy and oppressive for 4 years.
Yeah, and I was such a pessimist. I'm almost optimistic now. Let me ask you, Jay, where does Joe Biden, where do the scholars rank Mr. Biden?
Well, the scholars.
I'm just saying the people who, there's the layman's people who think so-and-so was a good president, so-and-so wasn't. There's the sort of the snobby, historical, scholarly view.
Yeah. I mean, it really depends on the honesty of the person doing the evaluation. Anyone that's honest, I think, would put him last, although I can see why some people put Buchanan last.
Franklin Pierce, he's somewhere around there.
I get it. Okay. People who are maybe a little more dishonest conservatively, are putting Carter down. He's down there. Don't get me wrong. He's definitely like in the top 5 worst presidents.
Look, Jimmy Carter is George 5. Washington compared to Joe Biden.
I know. But then you have other people that, they rank him low, a lot of these progressive people, but they will still put him above Trump or just below Trump, but not last. It's...
I think Trump will do well and be rehabilitated later. I think people
so
will look back at his first 3 years that were peace and prosperity. I think he's going to fix, and they may not like some of the fixes, but I mean, to me, the American people are the final judge of a lot of this, and so I think he's going to. Like I said, we've talked about it before. I think he's going to go full throttle. I think he's just counting down the minutes right now for when he can shift it into another gear. And those executive orders, I'm sure, are already written. They're just waiting for this inaugural address to be over. So, before he goes to that inaugural ball, I bet it's just one after another before he goes. So I think it'll be a lot of repealing. I think it'll be more repealing. Because one thing Trump doesn't get credit for, even from our side, is how many executive orders he repealed. He issued a lot, but a lot of them was getting rid of Obama stuff. It's kind of not, and I don't know why he doesn't get credit for that, but he repealed a lot of things.
Absolutely. And there's been some talk about him wanting to repeal a lot of the standing emergency orders that we still have out there. Because there's a lot that go all the way back to... early 1900s and further.
In the Cuban Missile Crisis, there's a lot of things like that out there, too. He might do that. I mean, especially if things get diffused in the world, which I think he's already working on. I mean, I think that's already happening.
Yeah.
So, when you think of it politically, I mean, think of this year. Yeah. I mean, just think of that her report, Biden screaming State of the Union, the horrible debate, the Trump getting shot, the switch of the candidates, and I mean, just an unduplicatable year, in my opinion.
Yeah, it has been one that all this stuff came together. I mean, having 2 non-consecutive terms, it's been since
Cleveland.
Cleveland. Yeah, Grover Cleveland.
Yep. 1892. Yeah, close enough. You got one letter right. Here's the other part of it. Could you have possibly imagined we'd be talking about vice presidential candidate Tim Walz?
Oh my word. That would have been the worst. That would have been the worst. I
have that image of when Kamala conceded. Walz was, you could tell he'd had a real good cry.
Yep.
He had just got done.
Yep.
You know.
He was not very happy with her. Afterwards, he was kind of critical.
But let me ask you this question: do you think the decision to put Walz on the ticket, which I don't know who the Democrats could, I'm not sure who would have mattered. Do you think that, because nobody's ever explained why he was picked? Do you think we'll ever know why he was the chosen?
Because he's as left as she is. I think they wanted to go for all the marbles. I really think that's it.
Huh.
They appreciated the work he did here.
It's true. Although he really didn't push it that much. I mean, on a national level, I didn't feel like
they never push it that
Walz
much.
bragged about all the progressive things here.
Of course not, because everybody hates it. You don't talk about it, you just do it.
Yeah, all of a sudden you saw him in a hunting uniform.
Right.
He
can't load the
shotgun. Was just, why didn't they just say, "Hey, cut!
Yeah.
We'll try it again."
My youngest and I went out rough grouse hunting, and I turned to him, and he's loading a shotgun, and I'm like, "Oh, you load that thing better than Tim Walz." He thought it was funny.
Yeah, it's just goodness. Oh,
he's 13 and he gets it. It's funny. He comes back to the state, and apparently him and Peggy Flanagan aren't seeing eye to eye.
I heard that.
Yeah.
What's the deal there?
She was measuring the drapes while he was out traversing the country.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Prediction: does Walz run again in 26?
I think he does. He wants to have his voice heard in the presidential election in 28, and the only way to be relevant is to be governor.
I'm going to disagree and says no.
Really?
Yeah, because I think he can do more. I think he can actually do more outside of it.
Huh.
Because to me, some of it might depend on the next 2 years. Because if he can't push the progressive stuff, then he has nothing to show for these 2 years.
Right.
I don't know. But he might, just to not risk the Republican winning. If a Republican wins in 26, it kind of is repudiation a little bit of him.
Right.
Well, maybe he can't. Maybe he can't have that. I don't know. My sense of it is that he won't. But you might be right. I mean,
yeah. All I know is that he needs to make sure that he keeps putting Gwen Walz front and center, because that's a winning strategy right there.
I got to say this too. We talked after the election about winners and losers.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, the media dynamic in 2024, where what I call old media, corporate media, versus the sort of what you and I like to call citizen journalism. I mean, not the people who go to the college get their BS or whatever it is in journalism and go up through the ranks and write for a paper. And really, I mean, if you go back to the beginning of 2024 and where we are here at the end, I mean, it's so profound.
Yeah.
I mean, it's moved mountains just this year.
Right.
In how different it is. When you see 50 million downloads of Trump talking to Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
And NBC can't get, a city of 500 to watch their morning show. I mean, I guess my question to you is how long you'd think the legacy media would be rethinking their stuff, but if they aren't going to, you got to remain profitable. It's like newspapers. I mean, you've got to. Some of them have made some changes. Some of them haven't. In 10 years, do we have newspapers? In 10 years, do we have CNN?
I hope not.
Well, unless it's real.
Yeah.
It's different. I actually hope it is there because I think more choices are better for people. So
I just would like to see, I guess, a renaissance of our media where it's not about telling the story you want people to hear. It is about actually going out and reporting what's happening, getting down to the bottom of the truth. Now, if they're willing to do that, I think that's great. I'm not necessarily in favor. I don't want to shut people down. I don't want to censor people. It's not government's job to do that. But if people would vote with their feet and go to the place where they're getting the truth, I'm all in favor of the dinosaurs going away because they aren't giving people what they need.
Yeah.
Anytime the market speaks, I'm happy with that. But I do think that we will see a rise of podcasting, possibly, more video podcasting. Instead of people watching a news program, they go to YouTube and, unfortunately, and depending on what happens with TikTok here, we don't know yet if that's going to get banned
when's that
or
supposed to happen? In January?
Don't remember, maybe.
Supposed to be pretty soon.
Something like that. But I see people going to places like that to get news. Twitter is huge, right now. And especially with the community notes function and things like that, it makes things a little more trustworthy. I mean, we look at what just happened with Elon Musk, not single-handedly, obviously, but because of what he's done with Twitter, allowing people to speak, and it has resulted in the shutdown of this continuing resolution at the end of the year that, that wouldn't have happened 4 years ago.
No, not a chance.
And so I think people want to be able to interact with the news, and that's why social media is huge. I think that, unfortunately, we don't always know if we're getting the truth, and so there needs to be, when you're talking with like low propensity people, that it gets hard to get the truth in people's hands, I think, sometimes, but you can't have... you have to trust the experts. The experts will fact check. The experts will tell you what's right, what's wrong.
Yeah.
That's the whole problem with the progressive movement. They put that all into place. When you look into the early 20th century, especially after Theodore Roosevelt, and moving into that whole era where it became all about the experts, and so that's what they're doing today.
Yipes stripes.
Yeah. Yeah, but yet, I don't know. I mean, we look at what's happening around the world, too. And 2024 had more elections around the world than I think, at any other time. And we've seen some countries get more conservative. We've seen some countries get more liberal. Europe has taken a step backwards and gone in the wrong direction. And I don't understand it, because they're having to live under a lot of this garbage that the European Union is pushing. And you see, especially like in France and in Scandinavia, where immigration is really ruining their country. They're doing a lot of what we're doing with the open borders and things like that, and it is destroying their culture. People are getting murdered. People are getting raped.
Well, it's Europe has become less European every day.
Yeah, right. And there are certain parts of London that are no-go for Londoners. They're completely Muslim, and people just don't go, and the police don't go. So it's you see Europe kind of moving in that direction, although interestingly enough, they have become more conservative than us on abortion, but that's a different issue. But then you look at countries in contrast to Europe, like you look at what's his name down in Argentina,
I know
that
who you're
became
talking
president
about,
down
yeah.
there, Malay. You look at the new president of El Salvador and how he's turned that country around, and you have other people that are ready to form alliances with President Trump on a populist agenda. And I think you have the world that is the Western world, not including Europe, but like the Western hemisphere, I think is growing more conservative. And I think Canada could possibly end up in that too. Mexico didn't go in that direction with this new lady.
Oh, she's horrible.
She's horrible. But I think you're seeing a lot of people that are trending in that direction.
Here's the thing, too.
Yeah.
I mean, Europe is such a has-been continent.
Yeah.
Future of the world's not in Europe. Europe's best days were 300 years ago. I mean, they don't produce anything. They don't make anything. They're nothing militarily anymore.
No.
I mean, Great Britain is a slight exception to some of that. But, I mean, France, Germany, they're not world powers anymore.
Yeah.
They're nothing.
Well, and the birth rate in 2022 across the European Union is 1.46 live births per woman. You can't sustain a society that way.
Yeah, but that's why they're importing everybody in to pay their social benefits, and so all the old Europeans can sit there and live for free. They've had it pretty cushy there,
right?
Which is backfires. But like Margaret Thatcher said, you eventually run out of other people's money.
Right.
I think that's the story so far of the 21st century, is the shift in the world away from Europe and into Asia, in some cases South America, Central America. I mean,
right. I mean, we don't know this because it's not really talked about here, but the whole reason Biden went to Africa recently was because Chinese influence in Africa is so pervasive.
Yeah.
I mean, they own like a lot of those cobalt mines in Democratic Republic of Congo that's enslaving children to sit and mine cobalt all day. Those are Chinese owned.
Sure. Chinese don't do it in China. They do it in another country.
Right.
That's the
But across Africa, the Chinese have grown in
Yeah, they're colonizing.
Yeah, absolutely they are.
Colonizing under a different way. They're not going there and appointing a territorial governor. They're
Right.
going there under the guise of a company, which of course is backed by the government. It's the only way it can happen over in China.
Right, and you don't hear about it very much. I mean, a little bit. There are people that are protesting what's going on with the mining in Democratic Republic of Congo, but you're going to hear more about what King Leopold did over there, as going over there and chopping limbs off of people and horrible stuff. But what the Chinese are doing now isn't too good neither.
Oh, it's worse. It's worse because it's not known. I mean, it's not. You turn on nightly news, you're not going to hear anything about that. And no reporters going there and exposing it. Terrible. I got to ask you about the world of sports in 2024.
Yeah.
Are you guy who watches the Olympics?
No, I used to. I loved the Olympics growing up, but it's become too political.
Yeah,
And
it has
it's
been
just
for me too.
It and as soon as I found, I'm like, well, maybe I could give it a chance. I didn't see the opening.
I never
and then
watched this.
Then I heard about the opening, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not watching this. And then the more you hear, okay, you got two men fighting as women.
Yeah, see, I won't support that.
Yeah, I can't do it.
Yeah, I know. And it's I can't believe. I don't know. The Olympics have ruined themselves as far as it's too bad because I feel bad for all the athletes who have worked so hard to get where they are and then get screwed like that, or get screwed because people turn it off because they just don't want to have the political crap in their face. There was a time where, and it's almost like too, like cheering for your country has become like a arrogant thing or something like that.
Well,
like,
here it has, not in other places in the world.
Why? Why here is it bad for the U.S. to cheer for the U.S.?
Because nationalism is bad, because Trump's a nationalist.
Oh.
You have to hate the country. That's the cool thing to do. we have to atone for our sins of racism and sexism and homophobia.
Oh, other countries don't have to do that?
Apparently not.
I'm not going to get lectured by any European country that used to garrote people and stuff. They're not going to tell me what to think about. And all the slaves they owned, they got no moral authority to tell us anything as far as I'm concerned.
No.
Yeah, the Olympics, I can't remember. The last time I really got into it might have been the year that guy who was the swimmer won. He did a couple different Olympics, but that
Michael Phelps?
Phelps. And he won like 12 events, just something ridiculous like that. And I know he competed in other ones, but the first one he was in was he was incredible in that.
Yeah.
I remember the dream teams. I remember that in the 80s we had that great diver that
Greg Louganis.
And Carl Lewis was
Mike Tyson.
Oh, it was unbelievable. The 1984 Olympic United States baseball team.
Yeah.
Was Mark McGuire was on that team. I don't have time to remember, but I could think of some others. But it just doesn't have the. You'd think too with the 24/7 coverage.
Yeah.
Back in the old days when they were on from 7 to 11 at night, you were getting tape delays, and you'd think that it would have been, it'd be cooler now,
right?
But maybe it's
you had to wait for the results in the newspaper the next day. You
the medal
just go
count.
Online.
They used to have the medal count going, so I don't know. I always liked the summer. The Winter Olympics I never liked as much. I don't understand like the figure skate. I don't understand how to score it and it all looks great to me. I don't.
I don't care to watch that, but like ski jumping and for some reason I really liked biathlon. It's not like it's exciting to watch.
I always liked the bobsledding.
Yeah, bobsledding.
And of course the hockey.
Luge.
Yeah, they were just curling. You can, Canada. I'll tell you what. You've given us Molson Ice, and you've given us a few other things. But let me tell you what you can do: boot curling. Okay, you can keep that, put it in a box, stick it in Justin Trudeau's shorts, and leave it there. That is. You know what you call that sport? I don't care. That's what you call it. You call it I don't care. Horrible.
Hey,
that's a sport. Why don't you put dominoes in the Olympics?
We got checkers? A rock and two brooms. What are we? I don't know.
Just waiting for one of the women to fly away. No, I'm kidding. I'm joking.
Oh boy.
Oh, I'm on a roll today.
But so between being woke and the climate change stuff, it's really just ruined the Olympics.
Yeah, it has. It's terrible. Another big story of the year, Jay, is the college protest, the Hamas.
Yeah.
And what's the future of that?
Well, there's still the same radical professors are still putting out the same radical ideas and radicalizing our youth.
Sure, but what happens? I can't separate it.
Haven't done anything different.
No, they're not going to change. But do people? we've talked about the public school system falling apart. Do people stop going to these universities? Is there become a time where, because look, there was a time where going to Princeton, Harvard, Brown, was a ticket to $1 million job.
Yeah,
it was the ultimate thing to be able to send your kid to an Ivy League school.
It really meant something.
Now, I bet 90% of the country wouldn't go to one of those schools for free.
Maybe. I don't know if we're quite there yet.
Okay.
I think that
a majority probably would not. And, of course, they don't have access anyway because they're not part of the elites. So what happens to those schools? I mean, how do they survive another 10 years, 30 years, 50 years if they're not going to change what they're doing? They have to know that their approval rating is not very high. If you asked, what's the approval rating of Harvard 40 years ago, it's way different than it is now. But maybe it's like the mainstream media. They're just not capable of changing.
Yeah, I don't know how much they care. That's the thing. They get money from alumni. They get money from the government. So is that what has to happen, though? The endowments have to stop? I think that's part of it. The endowments have to stop. The grants have to stop. The loans have to stop. I think that you need to go to more privately funded loans. I don't know how you pull back when you've got professors that have been entrenched forever making tons of money, when you've got people in administration making tons of money. You don't put an end to that gravy train if you're on it. Why would you do that? So,
but why don't the people who give them money, why do they keep doing it?
I don't know. You can only get so many people's name on a building or a wing of a building or a park bench.
If I were a rich guy giving money to an Ivy League school, I'd be like, I'd be sponsoring scholarships for kids to go to private school or go to college or go to work stuff. That would be a way better, thing for my money. Is it an ego thing that they just, I gave the most and I got the biggest tax deduction?
Well, I think a lot of kids are choosing to go to college, either not at all if they don't need it, and then going into the trades or whatever because there's such a need for that, and they make good money, or that they're choosing to go to a 2-year school if they can, or they're
community college maybe for a year or two,
right? And going to some of these schools when they have to. If you're going to be a lawyer, if you're going to be, there are certain things that you can get real world experience in. You don't have to go to Columbia to be a journalist. Yeah, if you want to work at the New York Times, you just might have to go to Columbia. But who wants to do
how
that?
long they're going to be around?
Yeah. I'll tell you, Joe Rogan's doing better than any of those people at the New York Times.
And Who writes at the New York Times?
He didn't go to journalism school for one day.
Yeah, I know. You're right, though. I wonder if, I wonder how colleges are making it right now. I really wonder because, tuition's ridiculous. It's getting only more ridiculous. And you just wonder, the average person, not going.
Absolutely.
I'm going to find something else, or I'm going to do it online, or I'm going to do community college for 2 years, or I'm going to go to school part-time and work full-time. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think it's a big, big issue. And I just wonder how it's going to shake out for these next couple generations.
Yeah.
And, the shame of it is we need lawyers and doctors. And it's like we talk about shortages of jobs, but those are pretty important.
Yeah. And I don't want a doctor that
shortcutted their way.
He learned by doing.
Well, but I think it's one of the reasons you're seeing a lot of doctors who are foreign is that it's
absolutely
it's too burdensome here to go. So anyhow, Jay, I got to talk a little bit in 2024 about some of the people we lost in 2024.
Okay.
I'll just start in the sports world. Just a quick comment. I mean, shocking death of Pete Rose.
Yeah.
I'm still shocked that he passed away. Death of Willie Mays, one of the greatest players of all time. Do you consider O.J. Simpson a sports figure?
Yeah, he's a sports figure. He was a great running back.
True, no doubt about it. I mean, I never got to see him, but
Yeah. You know, what he was awful in his personal life, but
Yeah.
I mean, he was great in the Naked Gun, and he was
the Hertz
a great
guy
running
for a
back.
while, right? He was
Yeah.
the Hertz guy. Shocking death of Bill Walton. I mean, I had no
Yeah.
idea that he was ill, and it was a tough one. World of Wrestling, we lost a total jerk in Ole Anderson, and a guy who could have done something with the career, never did. Old Sid Vicious. We lost Sid Vicious this year. Some other people we lost. Apollo Creed, Carl Weathers passed away.
That makes me sad.
It does. I think he was terrific. I didn't know. I actually did not know. Did you know? I didn't know until he died. He died last February.
Yeah.
He wasn't that old. 76. I mean, that's that old. But I didn't know that he played professional football.
Yeah, he did. Was he on the Chiefs?
Raiders.
Raiders.
For
Okay.
2 years. But I had no idea that he was
Yeah, he did.
and he played in Canada as well for the BC Lions for 3 years. Not the Detroit Lions, but
Yeah. I bet Detroit would have lost to the BC Lions back then in those days.
probably.
Yeah.
I'm just guessing, but yeah. I mean, but that's of course, he was in The Predator.
Yeah.
He made the transition to acting, and the funny thing is when he was in the original Rocky movie. I mean, he had just come up. That was one of his first acting gigs.
Yeah.
If you can believe it, because he's such a.
He's really good. Yeah.
I mean, he reminded me of. I don't know if Sylvester Stallone had Muhammad Ali kind of in mind as a caricature, but
Yeah.
I thought he definitely did. One of my favorite actors, James Earl Jones, is one of my favorites.
Oh, yeah.
He was terrific. We lost. Of course, he played Darth Vader. He was the voice of Darth Vader. It's probably what he's best known for.
Quincy Jones passed away.
That's right. He played what? The tuba? Something I don't know what he. I don't know those
He
things.
wrote tons of songs. He wrote a lot of Michael Jackson's Thriller album.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know he did.
He was behind We Are the World.
Okay, I knew that.
Yeah. So he was a huge songwriter for a lot of like that R&B pop stuff in the 80s. So
Well, that's too bad.
yeah.
Joe Lieberman, another person who passed away.
Yeah.
You didn't hear much about that because he was disliked by everybody by the end. But, but I mean, I thought I thought he was a decent guy. Phil Donahue, Donald
Yeah.
Sutherland.
Chris Christopherson.
Yes. And I thought it was tough to see Shannon Doherty pass away. She had battled stage 4 breast cancer like several times.
Wow.
Like she had gone through it a few times.
Bob Newhart.
I was going to say, Bob, I tell you what,
Yeah.
I don't go back to the original Newhart show, but I always liked the show where he had like that hotel or that inn.
Yeah.
You remember that show with Larry, Daryl, and Daryl?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Northern
that-
Exposure.
No.
Was it-
It
or
was,
not that one.
It was Newhart. It was called
Oh,
Newhart.
it was called Newhart.
I think so. I think
Okay.
It was his second show, not the original Bob Newhart show from
Yes.
the 60s or the 70s. But
Okay.
yeah, but because I just liked Larry, Daryl, and Daryl because they said that every episode.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm Larry. This is my brother Daryl and my other brother Daryl.
Yeah. Shelley Duvall.
That's right. The Shining.
Olive oil from Popeye. Sorry.
I just remember The Shining. That's what I remember.
Yeah.
Boy, that's a tough year, man. Of course, I think we mentioned on the show when Chuck Woolery passed away.
Yeah.
He was way older than I thought he was.
Yeah.
83, and God, he still had dark hair, freaking bastard.
Toby Keith.
Yes, I was going to say Toby.
Yes.
I can't believe that. He wasn't that old either, was he? 60-something, maybe?
Yeah, something like that. He was, he was born in 61. So,
63 years
yeah.
old? God, that's just...
Way too young.
That's so terrible. So, yeah, Richard Simmons, another one who passed away, beach ball and all.
Yeah.
I should say that. Richard Simmons helped a lot of people, man.
Yeah.
You got to give it to him there. So, lost a lot of folks in 2024.
Yeah.
Tough year in that regard. Good old, one thing we didn't get to see, we got to see for the first time since 1981, Yankees-Dodgers World Series.
I missed that
Just
one.
a dream
I heard
to see
about
that. You know what? I got to say this. Other than the World Series, I didn't watch a pitch of postseason baseball because I can't take the analytics. But I did watch some of the World Series, and the Dodgers won. They were the better team. I am surprised they won it in 5 games. I was a little surprised at that. But the Dodgers put together a spectacular team, and I'm not surprised that they took it all.
Yeah.
So,
something that happened in 2024, but I think has implications going forward. Are we going to see a return of not social justice, but actual justice? And I ask that because of what happened with the Daniel Penny case. It obviously turned out the way it should have.
right. Yeah, I think the pendulum is swinging back. I think one of the biggest losers of the year was DEI, identity stuff.
Yeah.
Who's the perpetrator and who's, going back to blind justice.
Yeah.
Trying to right wrongs of the past. That's not justice.
Right.
I was mildly surprised at the verdict.
And what do you think that means going forward for Derek Chauvin? They just approved, the judge approved evidence from, they're going to take a look at his heart condition and allow that as evidence. Plus, there's all the stuff out there that from the coroner's report showing his level of drug.
I
ingestion.
think he has a pretty good case for an appeal.
Yeah.
I don't know that it'll result in an overturning. I never thought he was guilty of second-degree murder. I always thought that was a stretch.
Yeah.
And I still think it's a stretch. I think when there are threats to outside of a courtroom to protest a victory and basically reburn the city.
Yeah.
That's, to me, is tampering with a jury.
Yes.
And should have never been allowed. I think Chauvin was convicted. I think he has an appeal. Look, I'm not defending what happened. I think he's guilty of something.
Yeah.
Because that conduct you can't have that conduct. But the more I watch about it, the less sympathetic I am to Mr. Floyd.
Yeah.
And I more see the here's the thing. If it wasn't all on videotape, I don't know that there would have been a prosecution.
Right.
I think it's all the fact that you can't get past that videotape. And I think the mainstream media is uninterested in this case. They have no interest in revisiting that, no interest in, again, reprising their role in any of this, which they certainly played one. So I don't know. I think that, look, here's the thing.
Yes.
If I don't know what's best for Chauvin to do, because they're not going to commute his sentence. They're not going to, Hennepin County and the state, because remember Keith Ellison took over the case, which
Right.
I don't know what he did on what grounds, although he can take over anything, I guess, as Attorney General. I don't know how that's going to work. I mean, anything that reverses that is going to be seen as a defeat for them.
Yeah.
So do they fight and fight and fight and risk? If that conviction gets overturned and you got to retry him and all this evidence gets admitted, that's a different ball game there. I don't know how you get an impartial jury. I mean, that's questionable in my opinion.
Right.
So, because you can try it in Timbuktu and they've still heard of the case.
Right.
So, I don't know. I mean, again, I thought second-degree murder was a stretch, and I still think it's a stretch, and I think it more and more every day. And I think the other officers have certainly got a case to be made that some of them didn't do anything. I mean, the one guy who was just standing there, what was he supposed to do? Tackle Chauvin? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, that one guy, he was brand new. He was in training, and his whole career is that he studied for is done.
Sure, he's branded a racist. He's branded I mean, it's... Yeah, I don't know. I think in a fair world, I think a lot of people have relooked at this, though, and quietly maybe come to a different conclusion, but I don't know. I don't know that he's become such a symbol that it's hard to see even whether it should be legally. But again, I challenge everybody to watch The Fall of Minneapolis. I mean, if you're going to watch the coverage on MSNBC, then, you should take an hour and a half and watch that.
Yeah.
So.
Agreed.
I mean, how does it have implications? Yes. But I don't know if anybody wants to open that can of worms or not.
Yeah. But I think we will see justice come back in other ways, and there's some ways in these big cities you're not going to, but even in Chicago, they're starting to rise up against the mayor of Chicago.
Yeah, people are sick of it.
Yeah.
People are just sick of it. They're just tired of it. It's taken a lot to reach that point.
Yep.
But I think, again, it's part of the Democratic I think that's one of the stories of the year is the old Democratic coalition falling apart.
Yeah.
That they're, I mean, and I think that it took a Donald Trump to do this.
Mm-hmm.
It took somebody not focused on principle. I hate saying this because it sounds so bad, but not obsessing over being right, being principled, being consistent, accepting people into your coalition that you disagreed with on other issues. It's always tough for some people. Because take unions for an example. He got the highest union vote of any Republican since President Reagan.
Yeah.
And Trump's pretty pro-union. I mean, he never speaks out against unions.
Right.
And other Republicans have been vehement right to work people. And although generally speaking, I would say right to work, sure, you can contract labor for anything I want to. Yeah, that's freedom. But I got to tell you, Jay.
Yeah.
You don't get in the door with these union people. They want to vote Republican.
Yes.
They do not want to vote Democratic anymore. So it's like, okay, well, I'll leave right to work to the states or somebody else can decide that.
Right.
But they do not want to vote for those folks anymore because the party's changed so much. But I think some of them feel that if you're ardently right to work, you don't get to first base with them.
Right.
So some people say, "Why are you dropping your principle?" Well, I don't know. I don't feel like I am. I feel personally like I'm saying I personally would not be part of a union. That's me personally. I don't want somebody else negotiating my wage. I don't like that concept. I don't want to be paid the same as the guy next to me if I'm better than him. I don't want promotions based solely on years of experience. Having said that, I'm not going to stand in the way of somebody else who wants to make that choice. I differentiate between public and private unions too. I don't think they're the same.
No, they're not.
So, I think it's going to take some of that relying less maybe on ideological purity
Yeah.
and relying more on pragmatism,
Yeah.
incrementalism. I remember having a debate with somebody one time. Who was I talking to? It was at one of these conventions, or, it was one of the, and I respect the libertarian view a lot, but they like to win arguments. And he was going on and on and on. I don't want to say a name because I'm not sure who this was exactly. One of two people, but I won't say their name. Social Security is unconstitutional. It shouldn't be there. Blah, blah, blah. Like, okay. I can get behind that, although the government has the power to tax. I didn't want to get into that. It doesn't say for what and how much. But I said, the Marines aren't in the Constitution, and my dad was a Marine. Should we get rid of the Marines? And he just danced around an answer. I said, 50 million people get a Social Security check. Do we just get rid of it? I mean, You have to be pragmatic about it. You can be right, and that's fine, but that doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Go be a candidate and knock on the doors of elderly people and tell them they're not going to get their Social Security, and you're not getting to first base, even if you agree on 100 other issues. It's that kind of stuff that just...
Yeah, we definitely need to look at changing how we frame these arguments and what arguments we push to the forefront. I had heard something from somebody in the Republican Party today talking about taxes again and how we've got to, no new taxes, and we got to, it's like,
that hasn't won anything.
I will say you can lose an election if you're busy raising taxes and not standing by, where you should be fiscally, but it's not going to win you an election.
Well, and I also think I think the Republicans in particular in this state, they're so mega focused on the income tax.
Yeah.
That they ignore all the other tax. See, my problem with no new taxes is, look at a state like New Hampshire.
Yeah.
No sales tax, no income tax. Now, they do fund a lot of things through things like property tax. They have other stuff. But if you sign a pledge saying no new tax, you can't even have a conversation about that.
Right.
You can't even, isn't that a worthwhile debate? Should we be an income tax state or an excess tax state? Should we fund through property tax? Should we get rid of these formulas that I've always said that zero-based budgeting is big. It's hard to campaign on something like that because I don't think people get it.
Right.
But I mean, how we do, there's 50 states, there's 50 laboratories out there for how to do things. How come New Hampshire's not broke if they don't have a sales, and I've always tried to make the case that the Republicans need to focus less on the income tax and more on the taxes that the everyday person is paying.
Right.
Everybody is paying a sales tax. Everybody's paying a gas tax. Most people are paying a property tax. If you're not paying it through your home, you're paying it through your rent.
Yep.
Okay. I mean, you're not connecting with people when it comes to an income tax.
Yeah.
You're connecting to the upper middle class, who's important because they're getting screwed a lot on income taxes.
Yeah.
But those excess taxes are the ones that are hitting everybody, and those are the ones the DFL's constantly raising.
Yeah. A lot of people get refunds on their income taxes. If you work for somebody else, chances are you get a refund of some degree. And so it's not really
you got the
winner.
right deductions too. But that's true. So the whole message completely has to change on that. If you're not paying a high income tax, you're probably not seeing how Minnesota is such a high tax state.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? I got $1,000 back. Okay,
right.
but
they took it from you throughout the year.
Yeah, and you're paying it every time you gas up, and every time you go to the store, and there's it's
county
hard.
taxes, city taxes,
taxes on the utilities. So it's the whole message is wrong. Anyway, I'm getting tired.
Okay.
You know what happens when I get tired?
Yeah.
I'm looking for you to end things.
Well,
But
I can do that.
I got to get the music up.
All right, but we're looking into 2025. I mean, the ball, if you can't even make it till what do we got here? It's not even 11 at night. How are you going to make it till the ball drop on the New Year's Eve?
Oh, I'll get there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Are you one of those you stay up?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't go out and party anymore. I don't do that. But New Year's Eve used to last a week. But I don't do that no more. But yeah, I'll definitely. I don't care to watch New York that much because I don't care for New York for anything.
Right.
I used to. I remember the year 2000, and I remember the Y2J or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I just remember, oh my God, everything's fine in New York.
Yeah.
You don't need to get out the canned goods.
Yeah. When it got midnight there and the lights didn't go off, I'm like, okay.
2025, here we come, Jay.
Yeah.
Styling, profiling, jet flying, limousine riding, wheeling, dealing, son of a gun. Jay, take it away.
Thank you, Andrew. It is a pleasure to end this year right. To take this podcast and kind of revisit a lot of the stuff we've talked about throughout the year. But the real challenge does come in 2025. The real challenge comes when we begin to put what we know to be true up against what the other side tries to tell us is true. And we cannot continue to go about things the same way we always have and expect to win. Why? Because we're going to have a couple of years now that should, barring anything major, unforeseen happening, that should be a little easier on our pocketbooks, on our lifestyles. Our memory is going to fade quicker, and it'll be a lot easier for people to pull that lever for a Democrat or fill out that bubble for a Democrat in a couple of years. And we cannot go back down that road. We have to come up with a different solution. We have to come up with different methodology. We have to do things in a manner that is going to remind people that they have it better because of what conservatives have done, and remind them that when Democrats were in power, things were really bad. Now, it should be easy to do, but it's not always easy to get people to focus. A lot of people are busy thinking about other things, especially, like this time of year. Everybody's minds are on Christmas and New Year's, and there's not always a focus that we want to see. People don't engage in elections until summer, fall before election. There's a lot of things that are happening behind the scenes that people don't see between now and then. But it's important to do those things because if we just show up at the last minute, we're not prepared. We don't have the right ground game in place. We don't have the right candidates in place. And it is important to look down the hole, if you will, of what's to be and what's happened, and be able to bridge the two in a way that we put good candidates forward. We primary rhinos at every place. We have to stop looking at just the federal level, and we have to look now at defending our state, defending our counties, defending our cities, our townships, our school boards, and we have to fill those seats with people that have common sense and will stop doing these high spending, giving away the farm, bending the knee to climate change and woke policies, and we have to rout them out. They can no longer stay in office. I mean, sure, they have the right to run, but we have to have the courage of our convictions and not just vote, but stand. And it doesn't just take place on the second Tuesday in November. We have to start standing now. So for those of you that feel that calling to step into something more, Whether that is by engaging in citizen journalism, whether that is by creating art that reflects the culture or where we want to go as a culture. Those of you that want to get involved in your community, in your church, those of you that want to stand for family and volunteer at places that help to end abortion, or keeping kids with their parents and giving parental rights to those that don't have them. Those are the things that we got to do every day. We gotta stand, and we gotta work, and we gotta do what we know is necessary. It's not something that we can do just a few of us. We need this uprising of people to come together and say, I've had enough, and I'm willing to do what needs to be done. So that's where we look at you. 2025 is a year full of promise. It looks better because we've taken care of some things at the federal level, but now it's up to us to make it right at home. So that's you. But I believe in you. We believe in you, or else we wouldn't still be doing this. We love you, Minnesota. But now it's your turn to get to work.
Driven to push on, to fight, to strive. It's that spark that makes